Hello everybody, and welcome to this video on how to give your Netapp Simulator larger disks and also adding in an SSD shelf. To start up, I've just uploaded my simulator files, which is actually clustered Data Ontap 8.2.1 into my data store, vSphere Data Store 1, and I've just renamed my folder, so it's called Netapp CM Demo 1. If I go into this folder, I have my files here, and I simply right click on the VMX file and add it to inventory. I give my virtual machine a name. I can select a resource pool here, so we'll put in the Netapp Sims resource pool and click finish. So I'll close down my data store here and I will click on my virtual machine that I've just added in, Netapp CM Demo 1. I'll open up the console. Now I'm going to power on my virtual machine and I'm just going to show you an error that pops up. So with this error, it cannot open the disk file, data ontap-sim.vmdk. So the fix for this, if you guys see that, is to close this off. I'll minimize my virtual machine for now. I'll go to my esxi host. I'll click on security profile and I'll enable SSH. And then I'm just going to launch up PuTTY here. And I'll connect into my esxi host. And all I have to do is simply type in vmkload _mod space multi extent, and I can exit out of that. We can go back into our simulator and we can click on start. Now once the simulator starts up, it's going to press enter here. It's going to say to go into the boot menu, press Ctrl C. So once you see that, press Ctrl C, and here it is. Just going to expand this window a bit. Okay, so now that we're in the boot menu, the first option that we want to select is number 4, clean configuration and initialize all disks. So I'll press 4 and enter. It'll ask you if you want to reset the config and install new operating system. Select yes, or type in yes, sorry. Are you sure? Yes. Now this is going to reboot and initialize the current disks. You can press enter here. And now the disk wipe process has begun. So depending on the speed of your system, I've seen this take around about 20 to 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do is just pause the video here, and once it's complete I will return. Okay guys, so our system initialization is completed successfully up here, and automatically it jumps into the cluster setup wizard. So at this point in time, we're just going to hit Ctrl C to exit the wizard. So we're presented with the login prompt. At the login prompt, we're going to type in admin, and that will drop us straight into the CLI prompt. From here, we need to get into the system shell. So to get into the system shell, we need to be able to log in as the diag user. So now we're going to set up the diag user. We're going to do security login unlock username diag, followed by security login password username diag, and we'll just enter in a password here for the diag user. Now to be able to run the system shell command, we need to be in advanced privilege mode. So to do that, we're going to type in set privilege advanced and select yes. So we can see that we're in advanced mode by the little asterisk here. Now we're going to type in system shell local. And at this prompt we will log in with our diag user. And we'll enter the password. And you can see that we're in the system shell with the little % prompt. Next we'll set the environment path. So we'll type set env path quotation dollar bracket path bracket colon usr / sbin close quotation, and we'll just verify that by typing echo $path, and we can see that our environment path is set here /usr / sbin. Next we're going to type in cd /sim /dev / disks, and let's list this directory. So you can see here in our simulator that we have two shelves. We have ID 0 and ID 1 with disk ID 16 to 32 on each shelf. So we're going to be removing these disks. So to do that we type in sudo rmv0 star and sudo rmv1 star. Next up we'll remove reservations, so we'll type in sudo rm space comma reservations, and now we'll change back to sim directory /dev, and in this next section is where we're going to be creating our disk shelves. So let's type in vsim _ make disks -h. So these are the selection of disks that we have available in the simulator. So in this demonstration what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating one shelf of SSDs, which is going to be the disk type number 35, so 500 meg each SSD disk. To do that we type in sudo vsim _ make disks -n 16 -t 35 and A0. So basically we've got 16 disks of type 35, which is 500 meg SSDs, and this will be assigned to the shelf ID 0. So press enter. And next we're going to be creating two disk shelves of disk type 36. So to do that, again we type in sudo vsim _ make disks -n 16 disks once again, disk type 36 and shelf 1. We'll press the up arrow to repeat that command, and let's just change the last figure where it's got 1 to a 2, and we'll create exactly the same amount of disks, exactly the same disk type on shelf ID number 2. So next let's type ls, disks /, and we can see that these disks are now in our simulator. So now we're going to type exit and system node halt. You'll be presented with a warning saying, are you sure you want to halt the node? Press yes. Okay, at this point what we're going to do is power off the virtual machine. And we want to go through and edit the virtual machine settings and have a look at hard disk number 4. So hard disk number 4 is where all the virtual disks are sitting, which we're going to be using to create our aggregates. So as you can see here, it is a sparse disk and it is 250 gig in size. Now I'm going to be expanding this to around 450 gig, but as you can see the virtual machine's powered off and it is grayed out here, so we can't actually expand this or do much with it. Let's cancel this and we'll minimize our window. We want to enable SSH on our esxi server. Okay, so SSH is already running there, which is great. And let's make a connection to our esxi server. Log in as root. Let's change directory into the data store where our simulator is located. Okay, and the disk that we're concentrating on is this data ontap sim.vmdk. So we're going to be converting this disk into a thin provision disk. Before we can actually do that, we need to go back and edit the settings of our virtual machine. hard disk number 4, and we need to remove this disk. So we'll click remove, and we want to make sure that we select remove from virtual machine. We do not want to select remove from virtual machine and delete files from disk. So ensuring that you have remove from virtual machine selected here, we'll click OK. The recent tasks has completed of reconfiguring the virtual machine, so the hard disk's been removed. We'll jump back into our SSH session, and here we need to type in vmkfstools-i, the name of our vmdk file here, -d, thin, and then we're going to give our vmdk file a new name. So I'm going to give it data ontap -sim-new. And at this point, the vmdk file is converting to a thin provision disk from a sparse disk. This will take a couple of minutes, so once again I'm going to pause the video and we'll resume it once it's complete. Okay, our file's now been converted, so let's just type ls again, and we can see here our new file. It's our thin provisioned disk. So what I'm going to do is rename the previous source file, data ontap -sim.vmdk, to a new name. And to do that, we type mv, the file name, followed by the new file name you'd like to use. So I'm just going to append -old to that. Next, we want to rename the new file that we created, which was data ontap -sim-new. And basically we're just going to remove the -new. So we're left with data ontap -sim.vmdk. Now if we add this disk back into our simulator, we will see it as a thin provision disk. However, we still will not be able to expand the disk size. So there is a little trick which I found searching around on Google and stumbled upon Duncan's blog of yellowbricks.com, and that is we need to edit the vmdk file. So to do that, let's type in vi and the name of our new file, data ontap -sim.vmdk, and we want to change the adapter type here. So at the moment it's on IDE, and we want to change this to LSI logic. So I'm going to press I for insert, and in VI I'll be able to type now. So I'm just going to type in LSI logic. Then I'm going to press escape to get out of insert mode. I'm going to move the cursor onto I and press X. So X is going to delete a single character. So I've deleted I. I'm going to delete D now. I'm going to press X again. And I'm going to press X again to remove E. So adapter type is LSI logic. Now we want to save this file. To save the file, I'm going to type :W Q exclamation mark. So I'm going to write and quit. So now I'm out of the file. So let's minimize this window. In our simulator virtual machine, we'll edit the settings again. We'll add in the hard disk number 4 now. So I'll select hard disk. Here I'm going to select use an existing virtual disk. And we're going to click on browse. I'm going to go to my data store, vSphere data store 1. I'm going to go to my folder, Netapp CM demo 1. And I'm going to select data ontap -sim.vmdk. Click next. We'll leave this default setting and click next. And we'll click finish. We'll click OK. Now let's jump back into the edit settings again. We'll go to hard disk 4. And as you can see, we can now expand the disk. So I'm going to expand this out to about 450 gig. And that should give plenty of room, especially if we want to add another shelf later on. So I'm going to click OK. So that's quite quick. The disk gets expanded out to 450 gig. We're going to jump back into edit settings again. Hard disk number 4. As you can see, we're at 450 gig. I'm going to remove this disk now. Once again, select remove from virtual machine only. We'll click OK. Now I'm going to go back into my SSH window, which is my esxi server. I'm going to edit the file again. So remember, vi space and then the file name dataontap-sim.vmdk. I'm going to go back down to adapter type, and I'm going to change this back to IDE. So remember, we press I for insert. I'm going to type IDE and press escape to get out of insert mode, and then I'm just going to press X until the LSI logic has removed. So I'm pressing X, X again, 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 and again. So now we're just left with IDE. So let's write and quit this file. So I'm going to do colon WQ exclamation mark. We can minimize our esxi host SSH window now. We're going to jump back into our virtual machine. We're going to edit the settings. Click add hard disk. Next. Use an existing virtual disk. Next. Click browse. We'll go into our data store, vSphere data store 1. We look for our folder, Netapp CM demo 1. We select dataontap-sim.vmdk again. Click next. As you can see, the virtual device node is IDE, which is correct because our disk is now IDE. We'll click next and finish. And we'll click OK. And now let's power on the virtual machine again. And once we see the Control C, we want to hit that to get into the boot menu. Okay, here's the boot menu. I press Control C. Okay, now in the boot menu, we're going to press option 5, and we're going to go into the maintenance mode boot. So press 5 and enter. Okay, at this point we can type disk show. Sorry, disk show -n. So these are all the unowned disks at the moment in the system. So if you remember, we added one shelf of SSD, one shelf of 9 gig SAS disks, and one shelf of 9 gig SAS disks as well. So 2 shelves together of SAS. So we need to assign 3 disks for our operating system. Now to do that, we type in disk assign v5.16. So this is the SAS disk shelf. We're not going to add the SSD disks for the operating system. So I'm just going to add disk assign v5.16, v5.17, and v5.18. So those 3 disks get assigned to this node. Now if I go disk show, I can see those 3 disks are assigned to this node. Once again, we're going to type in halt, and we'll just press enter here to reboot the system. Once again, we want to go into Control C into the boot menu. We can press enter here to speed up the boot. Here we go, we'll press Control C. Okay, and in the boot menu, we have our 3 disks assigned, so we need to select option number 4, which is clean configuration and initialize all disks. So we'll hit 4 and press enter. It asks us there quickly if we want to zero the disks, reset the config, and install a new file system. So we type yes. And then it's asking, are you sure? Type yes again. System will reboot, and upon boot it will start to initialize those 3 new disks. We'll press enter here. And once we start to see these little dots going across the screen, we know that the system is initializing the disks. So these disks are considerably larger than the default disks. So remember, these are 9 gig disks. So this process is going to take a little bit longer than before. So I'm going to pause the video again, and we will come back to you once this process has completed. Okay guys, so now that our disks have initialized successfully, we get thrown back into the cluster setup wizard. So we can continue through the cluster setup wizard now. So I'll type in create to create a new cluster. I'll select no here. For the simulator, we'll select yes on this option of cluster network will be configured to use network switches. For the network cluster ports, E0A and E0B get automatically assigned for cluster networking. So that would be the first 2 ports in this simulator. So I'm going to select yes to accept them. For the cluster name, we're going to be giving it the name of Netapp CM demo. We'll now enter the cluster base license key for the simulator. We won't add any additional licenses at this point, so I'll just press enter. We'll enter a password for the admin user of the cluster and retype. The cluster management interface port will be esxi, which is the third NIC in this Netapp simulator. So I'll just press enter and we'll give it an IP address. Enter, a net mask, and a default gateway. The DNS domain name I'll just put as my Active Directory domain, vmlab.local, and we'll enter in the name server IP address, enter in the description of where the controller is located. For the node management interface, we'll actually use the same interface esxi, and we'll give that an IP address, and netmask, and a default gateway. So the cluster is now set up, so we can log in. And if we do node show, we can see that we have one node, which is the node that we're on at the moment. But more importantly, let's have a look at our disks. If I go disk show, I can see that there's a lot of disks here that are unassigned. So let's assign these disks to this controller. So we'll do disk assign -disk, the beginning of the disk name, and then we'll put asterisks because we want all the disks with v6 to belong to this node, followed by owner and the name of this controller. So now if we go disk show, we can see that they're all assigned to this controller now. So if I still want to see the unassigned disks, we can type in another command. We can type in node run, the name of the node, and then disk show -n. So this shelf, V4, which is actually the SSD shelf, has no assigned disks at the moment. So we're going to assign these disks. So we'll just press the up arrow. And we'll just change this V6 to V4, asterisk, and the owner being Netapp CM demo -01. So those disks are now assigned to this controller. If I go disk show, we can see that these V4 ones are just put in as spare disks. So I'm going to just minimize this window and I'm going to jump into System Manager. Now in System Manager, we're going to add the cluster. Type in the IP address and we'll select credentials here. I'll type in my admin username and password. And we'll click add. So here's our cluster here, Netapp CM demo. If I double click on that, opens up a new window. Once again, I type in the admin username and password. And if we expand the storage and aggregates, we can see here that aggregate 0 has 3 9GB disks assigned to it. And these are the 3 disks here. So we can create a new aggregate. And you see that now we have this enable flash pool option because the system has picked up that it has SSD disks. So if I just give the aggregate a name of agg1, if I click on select disks, you see that we've got 15 disks of SSD and we've got 28 disks of SAS 9GB, and displaying also the total capacity of each. So I can create a new aggregate. Let's just select 16 disks of SAS. The RAID group size by default is 16 for the SAS in the simulator. Will give us 140GB here, and I'll click create and finish. And you can see here we've created an aggregate with the name agg1 and a total space of, or total usable space of 110 gigabytes. So if you remember, by default the Netapp Sim only allows you to have 20 gigabytes out of the box, and because of the SSDs we can actually edit the aggregate and we can now create flash pools. So that concludes this video on how to give your Netapp Simulator larger disks and also SSD disks. I hope you guys put it to good use and enjoy the extra space for your labs. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.